Notre Dame's smart transfer portal additions have them in the playoff hunt.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day on the number one sports podcasting network in the nation, Locked On. We're going to be discussing the latest recruiting news, decommitments, transfer portal information. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But to start, I want to use Notre Dame as a microcosm of how smart head coaches and staffs use the portal strategically. And it can be different each and every year because it's not about the volume of transfer portal players. It's about the quality. So let's start right there. As Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman, they're going to be coming in tonight, tomorrow, whichever polls you're looking at and whenever they come out. Of course, the one that really matters is on Tuesday evening, the college football playoff poll, somewhere between 8 and 10, wherever it's at. Wherever you think they should be ranked, that's fine. This show is not necessarily about that at the beginning. We'll get to that later and why I have maybe a different opinion on where they should be compared to what some Notre Dame fans think or other people as well. But it's more about the portal and how they even got in the conversation. If you take nothing else from this, note again, it's not about the volume, it's about the quality. So if you were to ask me which is the most important player they took this year, it's debatable. Many would say Malachi Fields, and I would not have a problem with that. The 6'4", 220-plus pound wide receiver out of the University of Virginia transferred to the Irish. Really good player the last couple of years for the Hoos, and he's been that way again for the Irish as well. Matter of fact, in the last game against Pittsburgh on Saturday, 7 catches, 99 yards, 14.1 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns. Really good football player. However, he's not the guy that I would say is even the most important because it's somebody that's been out of the lineup more. It's somebody that doesn't get any ballyhoo, doesn't get any extra attention. Sometimes it's about fit. Sometimes it's about we don't have somebody else at that spot. Experience, physical, nature of play, all those things can come into play. And I basically just categorized Devonte Smith, the nickel for Notre Dame. Now, Malachi is physically more gifted. He's 6'4", 220 plus, and he's a really talented football player. But when DeVonta is in the lineup and healthy for Notre Dame, not one or the other, both, their defense is totally different. He barely played against Miami, wasn't healthy, didn't play against Texas A&M. Now, why is that important? Notre Dame had to make adjustments. That's the guy they planned all fall camp to be the guy against the Canes and the Aggies. Just didn't work out. Football is that way. It is a sport, as they say, of attrition. But since he's been in the lineup and really good to go, after I think that game would have been Pittsburgh or right after, he was in a different physical state, probably knew the defense a little better, watching film, whatever it was, but he's been really good. Here are the numbers for Devonte Smith, who transferred to Notre Dame from Alabama, and why he is so important. Because without him, Notre Dame would have lost at least one more game, and they wouldn't be as impressive during this run. They won 8 in a row. He's a really important guy. Pro Football Focus grades won't show you this. And I mean, everybody can take those grades with a little bit of a grain of salt, but 64.8 overall, run defense 68.5, pass defense 64.3. But here's the only stat that I care about. Notre Dame's defense, since Devontae's been back, and the team overall, they have had this many losses, 0. USC and everybody else that they played so far this year, there's something to be said for the ability to make big plays and make big plays in ways that don't always get shine. As a defensive back, one of the biggest compliments you can get is when the announcers don't talk about you. That means the other team probably avoiding you, probably thinks better of it, and that's okay. Less is more in this case. Leonard Moore gets some shine because teams still go after him somewhat, but he's usually going up against an opponent's really, really good receivers, if not their best, like Mekhi Lemon. That was the guy he went after against USC. They mixed it up and did some different things against SC. That's fine. But when DeVonta's in, great run defender, he's good against the screen game, he's a decent blitzer, He's been effective in other ways. He is the glue guy. And if you don't have that defensive player, again, he's a veteran, he's a grad student at Notre Dame. If you don't have that guy on your defense, and it could be a D tackle, it could be whatever, chances are you're going to have some problems. Give Notre Dame credit, because the only two guys off the top of my head that are starting for Notre Dame that are transfers that they got this year are, again, Malachi Fields, the wide receiver from Virginia, and again, Devonte Smith, the nickel from the University of Alabama. They've done a tremendous job under Marcus Freeman's leadership of recruiting the high school ranks, and they should. But they were smart. They could have spent more money. They could have went over some of their recruits, maybe caused some locker room problems, etc. They didn't do that. They brought in a guy that's just a dominant boundary receiver. Doesn't take much to figure it out. Again, he had 99 yards and 2 TDs this past weekend. And then they brought in DeVonta, who Notre Dame is undefeated when he's healthy and actually in the lineup. That's a good sign. If you're going to take quantity, and I'm going to talk about Texas Tech either later this week or early next week, I need an expert, literally, to bring onto the show. I can't do that one by myself and give it the full attention that it needs. I need to talk to somebody that covers Tech on the daily, bring them on the show. There's different ways to get this done. But Notre Dame showed that it's about the quality of the player, not the quantity, because as a whole, Notre Dame only took 8 transfers. It's one of the lowest in the country. Clemson and Florida, 2 teams that didn't do well, took fewer. Clemson, I believe, was 4 and the Gators 5. So just having a low number is not the only thing. You got to have good coaching and all that, chemistry, etc. But if you know your roster and you can pinpoint a place where it's not going to just cause an upheaval, bring in a guy that's a grad transfer or a senior. That's fine. Notre Dame did that, and they hit big with both Malachi and with DeVonta. So who's next for Notre Dame? How do they do that next year? They'll adjust. They may need to take 15 guys. I think Freeman and his coaching staff, and give credit to their back office, they've identified enough now to figure it out. It changes. And right now, kind of doing my really, really early preliminary look at the offseason and the portal, they're probably going to need a tight end. I mean, I would never think that would be the case, but that's also one of the reasons their red zone offense has been pretty dreadful. We'll talk about their playoff chase here in a minute, but they've had so many injuries at tight end, it's almost laughable. You don't want to laugh at the players, but it's insane. They're going to have to take a portal tight end. They'll figure out what's best for them. They're going to lose Eli Raridan. Bauman's out of eligibility. He got hurt again. That kid has been truly banged up a bunch. And they have other guys like Flanagan have been hurt, etc. They're going to need a guy there. They'll figure it out. They'll find a guy that will fit into their room and make it happen. Teams that do this, that don't just take talent over fit, are the ones that are going to be in the playoff discussion. Now, when we come back, I want to talk about where I would rank Notre Dame. May not be as high as some others, but I just hinted at it. Injuries matter. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the ball game or you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Head over to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. I've got shows up every morning, doing live shows at noon Eastern time every day during the week, talking recruiting, transfer portal, and anything else going on in college football, including the playoff. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. I would have Oklahoma, at least for now, ahead of Notre Dame until I figure out the following. Notre Dame doesn't have 1. They don't have 2. They have 3 offensive linemen out. This is a pet peeve of mine, and everybody argues with me about this stuff, and it's fun. Take it however you want. And they got some other guys out. Gabriel Rubio at defensive tackle, etc. The trenches are where Notre Dame is usually really good. Not that they're not this year too, but if for some reason Rubio can't come back or Billy Shrout can't come back, he's the left guard that just kicked the bejesus out of USC in that game a few weeks ago. That changes your playoff run. Oklahoma's getting actually a little bit healthier. Mateer has been more banged up than what the public knows. He played okay against Alabama, but there's an asterisk with them too. They're not exactly in a perfect spot, but they're ranked pretty close to Notre Dame, but they just wanted Alabama. I'm going to give them that little extra edge for that. I think there's still a chance they could lose the LSU game at the end of the year. Anything is possible. Alabama laid an egg in some ways with 3 turnovers, but Oklahoma also earned it. They did the best job I have seen in quite some time in big moments against Alabama. So give them credit. And Notre Dame stomped. I mean, they just annihilated Pittsburgh. They were 0 for 13 on third downs. And both those teams did a really good job this past weekend, and they're getting better. But right now, I would give the slight edge to Oklahoma. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. I'd have OU 8, Notre Dame 9, Bama 10. Bama's inability to want to run the football is my concern with them. I think their coaching staff has failed the team in terms of how they prepared in fall camp and wanted to run the football or not. And in this case, not. They just don't want to do it enough. That's why I'm down on Bama. It's not the loss. It's the style of play. They've shot themselves in the foot by not doing that. So that's part of it. And then the other, no offense, but Ty Simpson, there is no way on God's green earth that guy is healthy. Zero chance. Some of those throws, those deeper throws that he's all of a sudden really off, either really high, really low, etc. The guy that was the most accurate quarterback in college football for the most part, he ain't healthy. And that's a pet peeve of mine too. Kind of like with Notre Dame, that makes me nervous. If he's out or if he's off, are they really going to do anything in the playoff? Probably not. That's a passing team. So we'll see. But with Notre Dame, here are a couple other things to talk about. They just show you how wild it can be for college football. And I'm just trying to look at this from a committee member standpoint. This is fun, but it's an inexact science. 2-3 weeks ago, I looked it up. Notre Dame's pass defense was 120th in the nation. Garbage. DeVonta's healthy now. Leonard Moore is healthy now. Tay Johnson's figured it out at free safety. He's the guy that had the pick 6 early in the game against Pittsburgh. Their secondary, this is so wild, went from bottom 20 or so in college football to a top 15 in the last few weeks. It's wild. Can you predict what's going to happen next? Not really. But there is one thing I know. Marcus Freeman had to have gotten involved here because they're not playing near as much zone. They're playing almost exclusively man. They're coming after him. They're basically playing the defense they did before Chris Ash got there. And while Ash has made adjustments that have helped too with the back end, they're actually catching interceptions. They're third in the nation there. I think that Freeman, Mickens, and the rest of the staff, they've done a better job of collaborating, and it's worked. The players are bought back in. They look more comfortable playing man. I wouldn't want to play them if I was even a good quarterback like Julian's saying. He's probably got the easiest gig in the world because he's got the Ohio State receivers. Notre Dame would still do some damage against Ohio State. And by the way, I'm still picking Ohio State to win it, but Notre Dame's one of the few teams that could match up athletically with Ohio State and at least give them some problems because they got long, athletic guys like Leonard Moore and Tay Johnson. I mean, they've got some guys. But to that end, again, is Rubio going to be healthy? He's your best interior defensive lineman. He's always hurt. It makes me nervous. They don't have anybody besides Boubacar Traore on the edge that has the true measurables that I look for, although they've been pretty effective. Joshua Burnham, etc. They're pretty good. But are they dominant? Not necessarily. Run defense, though, they're 13th in the nation. They're giving up 99.3. That's pretty darn good. Scoring defense, 18.4. That's 17th. After that horrific start, including the A&M game, that's pretty impressive. Again, as I mentioned, third in the nation in interceptions, 17. In passing defense, they're up to 78. That's not great. But if you take out the A&M and the Miami games and get some guys back more, you took him a little while to get healthy, and then you get DeVonta back, totally different defense. How do you grade that if you're the committee? Because all games count. But Notre Dame was horrible on pass defense the first few games, and they couldn't stay healthy. I don't know what you do with that. I'd be really curious to be a fly on the wall, Notre Dame or otherwise, when it's obvious the team is totally different, but it's based on injury. For me, I think all the games should matter, but every person is going to make their own judgment. I think that's a really important thing. Offensively, Notre Dame is 8th in the nation, 38.5 points. Obviously, they can score. You got Jeremiah Love, CJ Carr, Eli Raridon. You got multiple linemen that will be drafted. I already talked about Malachi Fields, but Dylan Faison, like they have speed and athleticism outside to go with Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. So offensively, I think they're really impressive. And this is the most balanced Notre Dame team I've seen maybe ever. They're 192 yards a game on the ground, 26th, 266 yards about for 30th in the nation passing the football. The only thing that I will say, and this absolutely has to get fixed for them, if they're going to make a run, their red zone offense stinks because it's either touchdown or bust. Field goal kicking, and I'm sure this is a microcosm of what a lot of Notre Dame fans are saying, is terrible. They just inserted the freshman. I forget the young man's name. He missed a field goal against Pittsburgh. It wasn't a distance deal. He's got a cannon, but they missed multiple extra points a few weeks ago against Boston College. They got a problem. And they're not very good at pushing people off the line in short yardage, which makes no sense because they can run the ball everywhere else. I don't understand that. They got to figure out short yardage. They've had a problem with it all year, and they got to figure out red zone. Because if I was them, I would just start throwing fades to Malachi on every play. If you throw it 4 times, you're going to get at minimum 1 pass interference every time you do that. I know that's really boring, but he's 6'4", 220 something. Put Eli Raritan out there. If teams want to put out a linebacker on either one of those guys, because they want to, like Raritan goes out there, or if they want to put a big safety on Malachi, because they're just trying to go big, you could do all kinds of things with motions and shifts where they go big bodies. You could use other tight ends. You do anything. But right now, even Jeremiah Love doesn't have any room to run on short yardage, which makes no sense. They got to figure that out. That's my one bugaboo about them on defense or on offense. And again, offensively, that can be fixed. But defense, I'm more concerned because Rubio being out, and then offense, I think Shrouth will be back for the playoff. We shall see. I need to see it because that is an NFL player. That is a veteran. That is one of the leaders of the Notre Dame team. They may not end up in the playoff and do anything because, they're going to beat Syracuse and Stanford. I think that's a pretty safe assumption. But they're not going to do anything without those guys. And to me, that should impact the ranking. They got to have a dead set understanding. And I don't know how Notre Dame communicates that with the committee. These are really interesting things that you could apply to any school if they were in the same situation that Notre Dame's in. Very, very awkward. I'm guessing there's a communication of some kind. Again, I have no idea. I'm just a person that follows college football very closely. But how do you do that if one of your key guys like Rubio, who's going to get a chance to at least go to NFL Combine, is 315 pounds or whatever, D tackle? Yeah, he's going to be back. Why should the committee believe them? Why? Why should they believe him about Billy Shrouth? And you can apply this to every single school. And to put it in perspective, I know flat out there's another school that is in the hunt for the playoff that they have been bold-faced lying about their quarterback for pretty much the entirety of the season. He has an injury he's been playing through. Do you think they're going to let that be known to the committee? No. These coaches all lie about their injury reports. So with that in mind, understand that college football, everybody wants to win, and they're willing to bend the truth a little bit. So I don't know how the committee would digest that kind of information. It's really fascinating. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the latest commitments and what's going on. And a reminder, we're on the verge of the portal purge, if you will. I'm surprised it didn't already happen. It's a little bit behind. And we'll talk about that. And I've got a whole bunch of comments in the chat. We'll get to those too. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. College football is as exciting as ever with the playoff chase, Notre Dame and everybody else trying to get in, tailgates, rivalries, all the energy in the stands. There's nothing quite like being at a college football game. But with all the hidden fees and different things to try to figure out to get into the game, getting a ticket can be harder than actually playing the game itself. That's why I use Game Time. I actually just bought 2 tickets to a basketball game on Game Time, in and out, literally in 5 minutes. That includes putting in my credit card information. That includes looking at the seat view right on my cell phone. And that includes waiting for the queue to get everything done. 5 minutes, 2 tickets. They're already downloaded in my phone for when I go to the game. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, let's talk about the latest commitments, do a few rundowns, and then we will get into the chat because I think that's a lot of fun. Speaking of Notre Dame, kind of ironic, Tommy Carr has decommitted from Miami, Ohio, and he's going to Michigan. That's CJ Carr's brother. Very small world. He's a quarterback, same high school as Celine. up near the Ann Arbor area. Kevin Brown, this is an interesting one. As good an offensive lineman as there is in the country, committed to Penn State for a very long time out of Harrisburg High in Harrisburg, PA. Many think he'll end up at West Virginia now. Who knows? Ohio State's trying to get him. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. Big time player. I saw Kevin at Rivals 5-star. That is a future NFL guy for sure. Jermaine McCree, he's going from App State. He's flipping his commitment to Troy. That's a cornerback out of Williamson High School down in Mobile. They're an undefeated football team in the state of Alabama. They are really good. Nick, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, so I apologize in advance. Watar, he's from Lebanon, Ohio. He was committed to Louisville. Now he's going to stay in state and play for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Tight end William Vaughn out of Kings Mountain, North Carolina. He is headed to BC or decommitted from BC. It's kind of unusual for them to get kids from North Carolina, so I'm not really shocked by that. Speaking of flips, this is a big one. Penn State lost LeVar Keys, a kid out of DeMatha. He could play several different positions, probably going to be a receiver for Indiana. He's got a lot of speed, big pickup for the Hoosiers. Dre Quinn, speaking of big pickups, Ohio State, the former Clemson commitment is now committed to the Buckeyes defensive end. This is a young man I went to see right before the season started. He is a tremendous athlete, 6'4", 220-some pounds, very athletic young man, big pickup for Ohio State. Marcus Keard out of Orange Lutheran in just outside of LA. He is a wide receiver that has committed to the UCLA Bruins. Defensive tackle, Carnell Jackson. He's a kid I saw recently because I live in Alabama. He has flipped his commitment from Arkansas to Kansas State. Again, big kid, 330 pounds, defensive tackle. He's going out to K-State. And in the class of 2028, those are all 2026 kids. There's some other guys that are committed. Jaden Wade. If you do not know who this kid is, you should. He is the most physically gifted quarterback recruit that I've ever seen live. Just like physically gifted. And I've seen, for the record, there's a guy in Ann Arbor. I would put Jaden at this stage even further ahead than Bryce. That's saying something. He committed to Georgia. Now, it's early. There's discussion about Jaden flipping his commitment or his class from 2028. He's currently a sophomore at IMG to 27. No idea. But while I'm on that subject, there are a lot of tricky parts with that. How does he do that? Does Georgia want him to? Jared Curtis is committed to Georgia, but there are rumblings that he might end up at Vanderbilt. I don't know. I haven't talked to Jared in over a year. And not like he's going to tell me what's going on, but if he ends up reclassing, that's my guess that Jared's not going to end up at Georgia. We'll see. I think he would play it out. I don't know what's going to happen. The latest that I heard was that he's not going to do it, but he could. I think it's smart for quarterbacks to play out the string because like CJ Carr could have left early for Notre Dame. They want guys to have as many reps as possible, but they need roster depth. It's kind of a conundrum for schools. But CJ decided to wait, play out his senior year at his high school in Michigan. It's working out pretty good for him. I think it would be a good idea for Wade to do the same thing up in or down in Florida at IMG. Getting those reps as a quarterback is really, really important. But physically, 6'5", 200 pounds. He's faster than about every player on the field, literally. He has moves. He's got a very natural throwing motion, and he has a cannon. This is going to be a future first-round pick. If he stays healthy, he'll probably be the first pick in the draft kind of guy. The only question is the million-dollar question with every quarterback. Will he be good with post-snap reads? And I have no idea. Because whatever he does now, that's nice. It's not even close to what he has to deal with in college. You got to wait till they get there. So we're always guessing on quarterback projections because of that. But physically, Jaden Wade is as good as I've ever seen. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the chat. My gut tells me Notre Dame hosts a round one playoff game, and the haters are going to be livid. Can't wait. That is from Irish Gordian Knot. You could be right. I would imagine that there's going to be more attrition and Notre Dame's not going to lose again. That's very possible. Ross, I can't wait either. All the complaining online will be awesome. Now, either you like Notre Dame or you don't. So there's probably a lot of truth to that. Oh yeah, Q to join the conference bots. Yeah, Notre Dame doesn't need to join the conference. That's not going to change anything. Irish Gordian Knot. I'm really hoping that Southern Cal and Michigan end up going independent because I'm really curious to see if independence becomes more normalized or if they get the same treatment Notre Dame gets every year. Has anybody heard that they want to be? I highly doubt that anybody's going independent there. Could be wrong, but I doubt that. Tommy Guns. Morning, Brian, everyone. Hey, Tommy, what's going on, brother? How you doing? Let's see. Irish Gordian Knot. If Notre Dame can land a legit number one defensive line in the portal plus a legit Fields level boundary receiver, they will have won the offseason. Finding big boundary receivers is almost as hard as it is finding D tackles. I would not expect Malachi Fields to be at Notre Dame next year. In theory, he's out of eligibility after this year. They are really hard to find. If they could stay healthy, he would be a second or third round draft pick, in my opinion. Let's see. I do think Will Pauling was a great pull from the locker room perspective. Pretty rare to bring in an outside guy who immediately resets the work ethic of the position group. Yeah, for those that don't know, Will Pauling ended up being like a captain at Notre Dame, even though he transferred from Wisconsin. That is really wild. Let's see here. Michael Parks. Keep climbing. Ross. Kicking game hopefully doesn't come to bite us in the playoffs. Notre Dame's kicking game. Punter's good. Place kicking is an atrocity. Rick Lopez. Notre Dame will make the playoffs because the networks want them in. You are definitely one of they need to join the playoff or join a conference guy. That has nothing to do with it. They are very good. Tommy Guns. They'll make it because they'll earn it. I imagine so too. Thanks for all your knowledge and sharing, CW Pura. I think that Notre Dame, talent-wise, is a top 8 team in the country, conservatively, especially because they have a quarterback that is obviously just getting better and better. CJ, this is his first year. Their ceiling is very, very high. They got to get rid of some penalties, and they just got to get healthy. I don't know if that's plausible or not, but health is always the end-all, be-all with football. How do you think we match up in the playoff competition in regard to strengths and weaknesses? Well, it depends on the team, and this is from Justin Indy Sniper. I mean, they're good everywhere. I don't know if they've got the depth that they would like because of the injuries. O-line, even as unbelievable as Notre Dame recruits it again, they need Billy back at guard. On defense, they don't have a dude at defensive tackle. Even Rubio's good. He's not elite. But this is a bad year for defensive tackle in college football. There really aren't many guys that are just unbelievable. Anybody that's good turns pro or they're hurt right now. I would say kicking game is the one thing that's obvious. They're subpar, but everything else, they're above average. Raritan plays more than they probably like because they've been so banged up at tight end. It's insane. Like they had, at one point, they had 3 tight ends out. It's ridiculous. But the only other spot that I would question anything is the same one I question for every team. Their linebackers, for the most part, aren't very good in coverage, but no linebackers are good in coverage. Kingston can do it okay. Jaden Osbury can do it okay, but Drake Bowen gets picked on. There aren't any good middle linebackers in coverage. So I think Notre Dame, if I had to rank them just on talent and upside, they'd be somewhere between 4 and 6. But they have so many moments of like, what was that? I'm a little hesitant to go that high. Like CJ throwing the pick 6 on the screen. I mean, it was a great play by the Pittsburgh player, but you don't need to take any risks. Pittsburgh's terrible against your defense. They're not moving the ball. You should take 0 risks. And CJ did. Those are the kinds of plays in a playoff game that can get you beat. So that's a different way to look at it. With that, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everybody that joined the chat, having some fun with it. I do really enjoy everybody coming in and having some fun. It's a lot of fun to talk about the playoffs and how it works. There's so many different parts to it and different ways you can look at it. And that's why I brought up injuries and stuff today. So Rick Lopez says, time to go to work. Thanks for the insight as always, Brian. Absolutely. Appreciate you stopping in, Rick. I do enjoy that as well. Once again, thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast. I'm going to be here noon Eastern time each day this week, just like it was last week, etc. We're going to have some fun talking about the playoffs, the transfer portal, recruiting, NIL, and all of it. This has been the Portal Podcast.